So, so yeah, it's your first time in San
Angelo.
Angelo, Texas, this
Yeah.
part of the world, or
Yeah, this is my first time out here, and honestly, it's way bigger than I thought it was going to be in San Angelo. I live in East Texas, so I spend most of my time there. But I've worked in South Texas, some West Texas stuff. Not much West Texas, mainly South. So this was pretty familiar. A little bit of rolling hills, the mesquite trees. I was like, I remember this.
You kind of hit us at a good time of year. I mean, we just had a cold snap. I know it's up there, but now it's just this weather. It's just that's what even in East Texas, probably if you don't like the weather, just wait. Wait a day or a few hours.
Exactly.
So I don't know. We might want to introduce ourselves to this audience that might be. I'm Patrick Deersky. I'm a member of the San Angelo Whiskey Collective. This is a group of enthusiasts that meet once a month and sometimes more. We just celebrate everything whiskey. We've a couple of years now. For the first few years, we focused on Texas distilleries, that sort. Started branching out. This has been, and we're growing, and we have tremendous membership now, and just it's great to go. So we support our local stores, but also go out, to Austin, the Dallas area, and always looking for those finds. So just tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you to San Angelo.
For sure. I'm here for the Whiskey Collective. I'm stoked about that. My name's Chris Rice. I'm the regional sales manager for 10th Mountain Whiskey for a few different states. Deal with local liquor stores, restaurants, bars to tell them the story of 10th Mountain Whiskey, tell them a little bit about our brand, get them to try the spirits, see if it's something that fits in their store, and do tastings like these that we're going to do tonight with the collective, and just have a big passion for craft whiskey and the craft whiskey scene, and getting to share our bottles is always fun. So, yeah,
that's great. That's what I really like about being part of this group, is just to experience some of the things. So my favorite story is my first meeting, my first collective session, I come in and, my background was whiskey at Christmas, and it was Weller. My grandfather had cases of Weller on hand. And so
if only you do that now.
Right. And now so if I wouldn't have drank
it all, right.
So they sit down the first little Glencairn, and they set it down, and I just throw it back.
Yep.
And so the guy on the screen, he was like, okay, remember, we're going to do a 3-step process with this. I was like, with this? I was like, wait a minute. I'm already. So that's but what do I like about this group? There's no judgment, and we all come at our own levels, but to start really experiencing things and hearing the story of each distillery and trying to understand, how, the different obstacles and things like that. So tell a little bit about 10th Mountain. What's the history of that? Kind of the name of it. It's pretty cool.
For sure. Yeah. So 10th Mountain, we were founded in 2014. In the Vail area, there's a lot of history with the 10th Mountain Division. They were formed there in the early 40s during World War II, meant to be a mountaineering division fighting. We saw what the Finnish did to the Russians.
Okay.
And we were like, we need some badasses like that. So we trained these guys that were either skiers in college or they were mountaineers themselves to understanding warfare tactics and survival tactics, and raise them to be just amazing servicemen and women to be sent to the Apennine Mountains in Italy. And I believe it was 45. It was what that was called. I don't know if you know much about that. It was the Gothic line. It was considered impenetrable. It was one of the major defenses for the Axis. And these guys were able to cross this line, to keep it short, and with minimal losses. And it was actually one of the things that led to the downfall of Hitler. So that's a pretty badass story. And they were deactivated for a while, and then reactivated and moved to Louisiana. And now they are currently stationed up in New York, less of a mountaineering division, more of a ready deployed division. And to my knowledge, they are the most actively deployed division in the military. So we pay a lot of homage to those guys and the history and the stories they have from being up in around Vail and Camp Hale. I mean, they trained at like 9,200 feet, I think it was.
Wow.
So this
is kind of before Vail was that kind of community of where you think about it now.
Exactly. So those guys, the people from the 10th Mountain, over 62 of the major ski hills in the U.S. were founded by 10th Mountain members from World War II.
Okay.
So skiing is obviously a big part of it.
Sure.
And outdoor mentality and being outside is a big piece of 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company, as well as the 10th Mountain Division was all these guys. I mean, they made skiing really accessible across the U.S. They founded quite a few in Colorado and many other states.
Wow, that's incredible to think about that connection. Yeah. You think of some of the things that we have kind of here in San Angelo. We have with our Fort Concho and kind of with our Buffalo Soldiers and all their involvement there and things like that. But to connect it with whiskey, how did that come about to say, hey, we want to? Is it more like that? Yeah, we're paying respect to this.
Yep, just really effort? Paying homage. We wanted a way to do Ryan wanted to do something that he was passionate about. He moved up to Colorado he's actually a Texas boy. Okay. Our founder, and moved up to Colorado to live kind of a ski bum life, and just fell in love with that area and Vail, and ended up working his way up from like bartender to restaurateur management, owning restaurants, and then was passionate about like brewing beer and stuff. And then next not logical progression with beer is, beer's for quitters. You may as well turn it into whiskey
if you got a little long-term commitment or some patience. So I know we hear that quite a bit with that kind of evolution there. Yeah. And then also having to, because usually we think of whiskey and everything. My naivety with it was like, with bourbon or whatever, it's got to be out of Kentucky, or there's only certain areas, but how sort of build that brand. Yeah. What was the process to build that brand in Colorado?
Yeah, it was really cool. We obviously, being up there, we wanted to have something that would resonate with locals and would resonate with craft distilling, and Ryan and everyone involved with 10th Mountain is very passionate about philanthropic work. So we were like, well, what can we do with this to make it available and impact the military community? So we're a super philanthropic brand and give back to different veteran organizations such as Shepherd's Men in Georgia, as well as Camp Hope in Missouri, as well as Vail Veterans Project, and wanted to impact like local communities, these Gold Star families, these veterans that returned from war that deal with PTSD and things like that. And we were like, well, this is a great opportunity to really embrace the local history that is in Vail, and get to do something we're passionate about, create a spirit that brings people together, and also impact the lives in these families that maybe have suffered loss, whether it's personal or they have lost a family member to conflict or things like that. And Ryan went to Moonshine University. It was the first class, I believe, through Moonshine University alongside, what was it? Not Pursuit United. Goodness gracious.
What are we thinking? What year are we talking about?
This was 2013, I believe. He went 2012, 2013, I believe, was when he went up there and learned everything he could about the distilling process, and learned what he wanted to do, and then started experimenting with mash bills for our stuff, for our bourbon being the flagship. That was obviously during the bourbon boom, of it really coming out.
So you started with bourbon.
Yep. Bourbon was our beginning.
Okay.
Yep. And it was partly that's, what was his love at the time.
Did you do any clear spirits before that?
Oh yeah, we had to pay the bills.
Okay, so that usually hear that. Yes, yeah.
Had to pay the bills. So we have a potato vodka still, and it's every one of our spirits is an award-winning spirit, which is cool to say, but our vodka, surprisingly, is one of the few that I actually enjoy. It's just, I like potato vodkas in general because they're creamier and they add a little bit of texture, especially in a cocktail type setting. And they're super neutral. Like you can get different grains and they kind of impact the flavor a little bit in a cocktail sense. And I had to pay the bills with that. So we did that. We have a Blue Corn Moonshine. It's 100 proof. And we try and use Colorado grains.
That's what I was going to ask. I know the water is just nothing compares to the water up there. If you get the Rockies and things like that, and so that's what. But to source it within staying within Colorado and things like that. So
as much as we can.
A little break. Did you need a?
Yeah, I'll take a little.
I think we got a little Casey Jones. So
these guys are pretty awesome.
Great story. We had them a couple months ago in here virtually, but telling us the story of they got the square pot. Yeah. So because he didn't want it to roll around in the back of his bed when he's being chased by revenuers and stuff.
That's so good.
This is the Casey Jones small batch. It's weeded.
I was about to say it smells like a weeded.
That's my favorite, weeded. Like a Weller.
I was about to say you're a Weller guy. So
I'm a Weller guy. So this comes at 5.2 years old, 95 proof. They really. So we've had some good experiences here. With Ryan when he first came into Colorado, started establishing it, was it just kind of taking baby steps, and like you said, his trajectory was kind of like he didn't just come in saying we're going to do this. He's like, before you know, it's like, wait, what is this guy doing? And before he could, because were there some like regulations or things within Colorado similar to what Texas? I know some of the early ones.
A lot of hoops to jump through, especially in the craft distilling world, with both just national regulations and Colorado state regulations. There are always so much you have to go through with setup and things like that. And having we still use reverse osmosis, things like that. We have a combination pot and column still.
Okay.
It's 500 gallon with 4 plates. So we try and keep as much of the oils in there, so you're not losing the character like you can on certain column stills. Now there's great column still whiskey out there. I'm a Still Austin fan.
Right. Yes.
Love those guys. Of course, Old Forester gets the benefit of, they have time and they can produce so much to wait to see what it comes out. We just believe that if you use quality grains and you use a process that's well honed, proper quality barrels, everything that goes into it, and let time and weather do its thing.
Okay.
We're not climate controlled for the rick house.
Your rick houses, you're kind of so that's open. One thing when Texas, they always say, with our extreme weather changes, and even this past week, we went from 30 to I think we might hit 87 here in a couple days.
That's crazy.
And so to talk about how that, the aging process and how it contracts and expands within the barrel and things like that. So but I think a lot of people kind of go with that. I love the stories. Love how so tonight here we're you guys are what expressions are you bringing for us to enjoy?
So brought our bourbon, which is a blue corn bourbon, kind of a mash bill you'll probably be familiar with, and then I also brought our rye, which is our most awarded spirit. It's it's a lower mash bill rye. There's a couple guys out there that have pretty close, but it's 69% rye, so that's fun.
Okay.
And then I also brought our single malt, which is our most recent release. It's a 100% malted barley, and that's super fun, especially timely with American single malt actually becoming a category.
Yeah, we might be the first ones to announce that. Yeah. I think January 19th,
something like that.
Explain what happened with that with single malts.
So it's kind of been the Wild West as far as rules go with single malts, and now they've established some rules on what that has to be, like size of container, can't be distilled over a certain proof. Has to be in a new American oak container, not American oak, just oak container of some sorts, no bigger than 700 liters, which I thought was a wild thing.
I didn't know, that's
I don't think that's
people
a big
sitting
issue.
around the table is like, what else can we put in here?
Can't do bigger than 44 gallons or whatever.
Gotta drink through a straw.
Yeah. And just a few very, very similar to other spirits. I feel like there's 100% malted barley to be considered a single malt, which is very similar to how Scotch is. No colors added, I believe, to be considered American single malt. I don't know I'm not as familiar with them because they're slightly different than bourbon. They're a little bit different, but I believe it's one distillery that both. It could be blended if it's multiple distilleries.
Okay.
It wouldn't, but it couldn't be called a single malt. But a single malt has to be aged and produced by one distillery.
So everything you do, it's there, it's distilled, bottled, sourced, everything. So it's kind of it meets all of those.
Yep, meets all the requirements. Ours is
within there, and that's kind of the single malts, because I know people equate that sometimes with Scotch, or and you can't call something Scotch. But I know we've had people come through here with bourbon because they think, well, bourbon has to be made out of Kentucky and all that. It's like, no, there's other. So when you say they, like say these, who is they, and who sets these rules?
It's what do they call? I don't even know what the name of the governing agency that sets all these rules for us.
So it's kind of a way to just set some parameters, like bottled and bond,
exactly
things, what you can call certain things. But then there's more generic, like we can call something small batch, but
correct. There's no real
really. Now, single barrel, it has to be.
Has to
do y'all
be
have
one.
any single barrel? Or do y'all
Yes,
do?
we do single barrel program, and
okay.
that's. I mean, I think our regular releases are great releases.
Mm-hmm.
They're quality. They hold up in the market. But our single barrel program is what I really love about 10th Mountain. Is we do a half barrel. You can do half barrels, so smaller clubs or like liquor stores. They're not committing to 250 bottles of something.
Right.
And trying to move this one product. It makes it a little bit easier to move for people and makes it more accessible, especially price wise. Because I mean, spirits are expensive.
So what are your barrels? Your 53 gallon? Large?
There are barrels. They're 53 gallon barrels.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And I was so thinking back that. So let's talk through each of those experiences. So your bourbon, what would you say your the tasting notes and what do you have there?
So it's a high-rye bourbon, higher rye, I should say. I think it's not over 25%, but it is a higher rye. But that blue corn brings like this dusty, appley note to it with vanilla, caramel, baking spices through the palate and on the finish. And you get kind of like the oak through the end of the finish. It's just super approachable. It's 92 proof, so it's not proof to the floor, but it's also not so far up here
that's my wheelhouse. Right?
Yeah, that is. I believe there was a study done and surveys done through the preferred proof range for bourbon, and statistically, 92 proof is that range. It's not why we picked it. It just was kind of like this is where our whiskey sits kind of best to reach what we want it to be for the blends. So that I thought that was kind of interesting, but that is like the preferred proof for majority.
So barrel proof? What does it come out of the barrel at?
So this is what's fun. So we barrel at 120 proof.
Okay.
Everything goes into the barrel at 120. And where we're at, we age at 6,800 feet, and we're in high desert. And we have, like Texas, a lot of temperature fluctuation because it's a high desert.
Gotcha. Yes.
It gets obviously wintertime.
People don't think that. They see the skiing and they see the people in the enjoying that country and all that.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. Wow. So we get a bunch of impact, and because it's so dry, we lose water first on our angel share. So we don't have a massive angel share. Typically, our proofs come out anywhere from like 125 to 155. Wow. It's really cool. Our hazmat stuff is really special. I will say that stuff is so good. We haven't released a hazmat. We hope to. We don't have any barrels currently that are sitting in that range, but I shipped a bottle here. It's one of our 10-year anniversary bottles of the single malt.
Okay.
To everybody, it's 130 proof. But it was supposed to be here this morning, and it rained in Tyler, and they decided that they couldn't ship it.
It
I was like, put it on a truck. We're 5 hours, man. You can get it here.
We might have to have a special Whiskey Collective session mid session here, so we can when that arrives, the arrival of that.
Yeah, but it's really fun to see what happens, because I mean our bourbons it seems like our single malt and rye tends to be a little bit higher. Our bourbon tends to be in the 120s, and I'm not sure if that's just because of the grains.
Y'all provide an age statement?
Yep, our age statement on our bourbon currently is 2-year-old. It's a blend of 2 to 4-year-old.
Okay.
Each year we're trying to increase that as we expanded really quickly over the past few years, and now we're kind of scaling some of that back and focusing more so we can kind of get our age statement up a little bit more, have a little bit more freedom with that kind of stuff, and not have to blend so many barrels and it be like, I promise you this is a 2 to 4 or 2 to 5-year-old whiskey. It's got 5-year-old, and a good chunk of it is 5.
Right.
And people are like, well, it says it's 2, and that's all they see. People uneducated don't see that.
So for age statements, you have to put the
lowest number.
Lowest number, regardless.
Yep, doesn't matter what's in there. Okay. So, this is an interesting fact about the whiskey world. If you ever see the word Solera cask on anything, that's I believe it's sherry that does that, and it can have I believe it's Glenfiddich 15-year-old Scotch is a Solera cask, and what they do is as barrels age, once it reaches 15, they'll dump it into this one container, this larger container. Okay. And there's whiskeys in that.
It's kind of an affinity cask, or
basically, but there's stuff in there that's over 50 years old.
Yeah.
So it's like it's
What's
wild.
that cognac? Was that Louis?
Louis XIII.
That has could be over 100 years old in this stuff. And I think Weller, they just came out with that Millennium.
Yep.
That has a bunch of blends. Okay.
Yep. So that's how a Solera cask works.
Okay.
Which is just a fun side of it. I think Solera cask is a cool idea.
That's great. No, this is great. This is what we're trying to do here with our group is it's more education, appreciation, and stuff like that. And so really building that knowledge. So talk about your rye.
Our rye is it's my wife's favorite. She's a rye girl. It's a lower proof rye for our shelf. It's 86 proof. So we wanted something that makes the rye category approachable for everybody. Because it can be astringent. Some people are like, I don't want this super spicy thing, because what 90% of people think of when they think of rye is MGP, 95% rye, 5 malted barley. So the 95.5 mash bill.
Spice kickback and really
tastes like mints and eucalyptus and all this sorts of stuff. Which is, it's great and has its place. Like, it's awesome. I mean, Bullet uses MGP stuff.
Sure.
There is amazing MGP out there. But we wanted something a lower mash bill, so 69% rye, 27% blue or yellow dent corn, and then 4 malted barley. And it is just super approachable. I like to refer to it as like either a summertime rye or a beginner's rye, because you don't get attacked on the palate with all that baking spice and cinnamon and clove and all those things.
So you think a blind test, would they even know it was a rye if they're going to, I mean, they might.
They would still get it. It's high enough.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's interesting. I did a rye tasting back home with just some folks, had a lineup of ryes, everything from a 53% rye up to a 95.5. So, and I had 100% rye there as well. So everybody could kind of see this gauntlet. And it was interesting to see how there's kind of this sweet spot. And it was right around ours. And there was one other one that was 68%, and we're 69%. And the corn used, for whatever reason, it brought out more of the sweetness than even the stuff down at the 53% wasn't as sweet. It was spicier. And the stuff higher, it was spicier. It was just this interesting interaction. We had a good conversation about how I wonder if, like, the chemical makeup changes enough at that percentage for whatever reason to bring out the sweetness of the rye.
How they interact with each other and so forth. So
for sure,
it's fantastic. So, and one of my things, what I'm most excited about tonight is the single malt. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that.
So our single malt, our malted barley is the only thing we don't get from Colorado. There just doesn't grow real well there. So we get it from Sheboygan, where a lot of distillers do.
Sheboygan would be
we get it in Michigan. Sheboygan, Michigan.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah. There's also a Wisconsin, but
right. That's what I was wondering. I was like, I don't know. I don't know there, but I know. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So we get our grain from there for the malted barley, and it's 100% malted barley. New oak containers, age statement is 2 years. It's a blend of 2 and 3. It's our youngest spirit. We really don't have anything older than just under 4 years. I think we have maybe a barrel or two that are over 4 years at this point. Yeah. And they are. It's just so fun. I don't want to impress any too many tasting notes on it, because it is just a cool spirit. It's very, very different. It is a bourbon drinker single malt in my mind.
Okay.
So it makes that category very approachable for the people that are like, all I think of is Scotch, and I think of either the peat or
just some things there that you can or it's got to be it's held in such high regard or something, and you just can't. But that's what I'm excited about. That I'm glad to see it's making some headway in our discussions with that. And so, okay, I'm gonna let's go back to the 3.
Yeah.
So with your bourbon, you're a mixologist. So what would you say bourbon? What would you like your cocktail to do with your bourbon?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of fun different directions. I think it does really well in sours. Just that fun little sweetness from the vanilla and that blue corn apple just works with a sour. It's a simple 3-ingredient cocktail, and just shaken up, and it does really, really well. I like it in there.
So walk us through that.
So what I would do, my personal sour choice would be, I'd use 2 ounces of that, 2 ounces of our bourbon. I use an ounce of lemon juice, and I don't like mine super sweet. So I do maybe a half an ounce of simple syrup, just sugar water, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can choose if you want to use brown sugar or just white sugar is fine. Honey's fun too. And then I like to put an egg white in it and shake it up so it gets this foamy, really pretty top.
Okay.
And then I drop a couple bitters over the top of it.
Nice.
It turns out really beautiful and
fantastic. We need to have. We're gonna input. You'll send us some pictures of that, and we'll put that in this. So with your rye, what's your cocktail of
rye?
choice?
I really like to do a couple things with it, but we also have a cordial that's a sage infused peach and vanilla. It's a neutral grain spirit, but the sage like balances out, like the peaches are Palisade peaches and we infuse them. It's not like a peach flavor. And then we broker for vanilla and bring everything in and we infuse it through an infuser. And I like to do honestly like a riff on an old fashioned with it. And instead of using a simple or a sugar cube, I'll just do a couple ounces of rye or 2.5 ounces of rye and however much sweetness I want from that. Because it's a 70 proof cordial, so it doesn't bring your proof way down. So you could do 1/2 ounce up to 1 ounce if you want more of that peach and sage and vanilla, and then just a twist of lemon and stir it up, and it's
nice,
easy, like not a lot of steps.
Yeah,
add some bitters if you want. You don't have to. I think the sage does enough, but that's just
the sage. Yeah, I wouldn't put that in my. I don't have that in my cabinet. But that's okay. Interesting there. So, how about the single malt?
Single malt, man, I like it. I honestly think
that's pretty much what you do. Nothing.
Yeah, you can. I had a guy do a cocktail with it with like a peach sparkling water and some other stuff, and I thought that was really interesting because there are some stone fruit notes in it, but that's not what I think is predominant. So that was fun. Yeah. But I think personally, like on the rocks, if you're a rocks guy or just by itself. Like it does really, really
stands
well.
on its own. Yeah. All of them stand on their own without a doubt. But you
could drop a couple like chocolate bitters in there and that'd be kind of fun. Okay. And I wouldn't do any citrus, but I would something like that.
So Seth, he gave me a retirement gift and it was celery bitters.
Oh, that's fun. Those are fun.
Bloody Mary. I don't know. I always see celery, but I haven't seen that. What else? He gave me a whole range of bitters, but celery bitters I've not seen before. Those
are fun. Is it Bittermans? Is that who it is? Or
it's
is
the Fee
Brothers. Yes. Yep. They do some really cool ones. The celery bitters is a lot of fun. You could probably do something with a rye too.
Okay. Makes sense. Well, kind of the pepper. Yeah.
That kind of peppery, like green note in there. You could do some cool stuff with that.
Well, cool. I think we're about to wrap up, but just, hey, before we go, tell us about the facility in Vail and what people can expect and how they get there. And we want people to visit and or get can we order online? How are you looking to be here in San Angelo? Are we in San Angelo? That sort of thing.
Working on getting to San Angelo. Currently, we just launched in Texas as of end of July. So, Texas is a massive state and we're expanding and we're having a lot of luck. Thankfully, people are big fans of, supporting military and things that are philanthropic in the state of Texas, that's awesome. And plus spirits are good. We are available to order online. You can go to 10thwhiskey.com and it will ship to your house. No problem. We ship through a third party to all the laws like you have to in the U.S. Thanks for that prohibition. And we also we're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, all those sorts of things. You can keep updated with different events that we have coming up, parties like our 10th anniversary that happened this last year, things like that. And our distillery is in Gypsum, which is about 30 minutes west of Vail. It has a tasting room, and that's where you can go.
So you can visit that as well?
You can visit there, yep.
Great. Yep.
Go there. It's really cool. There's all kinds of memorabilia from the 10th Mountain Division.
Yeah.
Different soldiers have donated. It's pretty cool. The 3-star general that just retired this last year, when I went up to visit for the first time last March, the general had just retired. I got out there and he donated his uniform to be displayed, which is that's really cool.
That's
like his BDUs. It was.
Think about where it all. Not a little over 10 years ago when all this kind of started going, and then to have that and really make that connection and impact.
Yep, it's funny. One fun story about it. The walking man that you see on our shirts and you'll see it on our bottles and things was actually the official symbol of the 10th Mountain Division, but it wasn't trademarked, so we trademarked it. And Ryan
got a cease and desist from the U.S. government.
No, this is the best part. He was in the distillery, and the guy comes in, and it's pretty cool. A lot of 10th Mountain vets will come up there, and they come up there regularly, and they come into the distillery, and this guy goes, "Are you Ryan?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Come with me for just a minute." Ryan's like, "Oh shit, what's about to happen?" And he goes outside and he says, "Man, I just want to thank you for all you're doing and the attention you're bringing to the 10th Mountain Division and what you do for military families. And I love, and you have 100% of the support from the 10th Mountain Division for you guys." And that's gives me goosebumps.
Right,
still.
I know. Yeah. Amazing.
Yep. But yeah, it's super fun. It's a really cool place to visit. There's some cool cocktails. Made a couple cocktails for the menu. Ben up there is in that tasting room is the main bartender up there, and he's great. They'll do tours if someone's available. We also have a tasting room if you're in Vail. We have one right across the covered bridge as you come into Vail, and the large 10th Mountain Soldier statue is outside our tasting room window. You can see it from there as you sit and have a cocktail.
So that was there. That statue was there prior and all of this stuff. So you kind of wrapped around that.
Yeah, it was cool.
Story. That's wonderful. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
Hey,
cheers.
Yeah, this is wonderful. Our inaugural type interview with one of you guys. So I appreciate it. Hopefully we have looking forward to this evening and many more. So
absolutely.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother.